I've been tutoring students for 5 years, and here are 5 principles that I've used to help my students in a net positive and ethical way. Hi, my name is Matt. I'm a cancer researcher here in Paris, and this is just a channel where I'm going to try and share certain ideas that I've had and thoughts that I've had on things that are relevant to me. So what sparked this video was a great article by Dr. Justin Sung, which I'll show here and link in the description. And what that article talks about is the unregulated nature of the tutoring industry. Particularly, I'm talking about high school tutors, so people in university who tutor high school students, and the ethics around that, and also the mid to long-term consequences of having a very short-term approach to tutoring and improving grades. So I've been tutoring for about 5 years now, and I actually started tutoring piano and then moving into high school subjects over time. And what I wanted to highlight were these sort of 5 principles that I've picked up over the years, and more importantly, I've really tried to force into the way that I approach tutoring. And I think a part of it is actually quite different to the ways that I've seen other people who tutor operate, and also things I've just heard from friends or people that I know who tutor other students. So the first, principle or point that I wanted to make was that I actually never tutor one subject specifically, and I made that conscious choice from the beginning. And I guess there's a few reasons for this. The first is that it's actually too easy to only tutor one topic, for example, because assuming that you've decided to become a tutor, you probably did well in that subject, enough where you can get the grade, but also you have enough knowledge to repackage it, re-explain things, and help other people learn that way. But I actually made it a point that that's too easy, and actually I don't think me doing that is worth what the parents or whoever is paying me. And so one thing that really helped me with setting expectations is making this point really clear to my students or potential students, because actually if someone is interested in only having a maths tutor, for example, only do maths, don't work on anything other, no system management, not looking at study systems, not looking at planning for uni, anything like that, then I actually say that I'm not interested in helping, but I can try and find someone. If that's really what they want and that's what they decided, then I'm always happy to try and help. But having that value and being consistent with it, I think really helped me build tutor-student relationships that I really enjoyed, and I was always happy to try and help them, knowing that we were on the same page from the get-go. And my second point kind of links to this first point, which is that assuming that we're not tutoring, so the tutors are not tutoring because they are extremely broke and they need money. I'm assuming that, okay, maybe you're in uni, you do some things, you have a part-time job, and maybe you tutor just for some extra money on the side or something like that. And in my case, it was really clear to me that if I wasn't going to take it seriously, have values, and actually look out for what's best for the students, then I can go make money doing something else. Like, if I'm not willing to take the responsibility of these students' progression and overall study system, then I might as well go do something else. I can go easily get a job working in a kitchen or something like that. So for me, it was really, I have a choice, and if I'm going to make this choice, I have a responsibility to do things which are in the best interest of the student. And for example, one of those things is not only tutoring one subject. If I help my students, what I try and always do is a systems focus, because I know that even if you get help in one subject, usually the system as a whole, it's a study system. And not only is it a study system, that system is going to get stress tested as you move into uni, as things get harder. So it actually feels a bit unethical to me to just get money for helping someone with one subject, knowing that it doesn't help their other subjects, knowing that it's a short-term benefit and probably won't help them in university. And just assuming that if I look back when I was in high school, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know, I had an idea of what degree I wanted to do, but, to assume that they have all those things covered and all you need to do is teach this subject, which actually can be done by AI, or there's so much YouTube information now on repackaged ways to teach certain ideas. I just don't think that was my role. And if I was going to get paid, I didn't feel great about being paid to do something that wasn't aligning with my values and how I wanted to be a tutor for someone else. So my third point and principle is that from my experience, I've noticed that parents don't care very much. And what I mean by that is, it's not that they don't care about their student's progression or their child's progression or their child doing well. It's more like there's this sort of idea that just by getting a tutor for your child, and that tutor being the top of their class or a high ATAR or a high score in high school, that automatically means it's a net positive situation. What I always try to do is, because if you put yourself in the parents' shoes, all they want to hear is that, okay, my child's doing better than they were before tutoring. And if you can set them up more for the future, so maybe you help them choosing their subjects for university, looking at options. Maybe they're interested in engineering. So I have engineering friends when I was in uni. I tried to connect them, hey, if they had questions, and just try and, I guess, be holistic in the way that I'm helping their future. And parents, I don't think there's anything more that they want than seeing short-term benefit as well as long-term benefit. It's just a win-win situation. I think it's imperative that we send updates to the parents to show progress in like the data, like obviously with the student knowing that you're sending the marks. But I think it's just, if I was a parent sending money to someone to tutor my child, and they're coming back to me with evidence showing, yes, this is where they've improved, this is what we've worked on, we've also worked on university things, and this is what we've done, and just being super clear, I think that it has just made the relationship between me and the student and then me and the parents so much better. It just makes me feel more comfortable with what I'm doing, because if they really didn't like something, they would tell me, like, I actually don't like that you're doing this, then I could change, or we could have a discussion. And I think that open dialogue is very important. I don't know, I haven't really seen that being talked much in my friends who tutor and what I've seen online. My fourth principle is to be a mentor and not a teacher. So students have their teachers at their schools, and there are a lot of resources online for this, to get more information, to be taught, and there's also AI now. So I think what my role was to do two things. It was to help them build their system holistically, so how they study everything, how they plan for university if that's what they want to do, and week by week show progression towards their goals and relay that to them for motivation, and obviously to the parents to demonstrate the improvement and what, respecting the money that you're getting. And as I said previously, being knowing that I'm choosing to tutor and it's my responsibility to do it to the best of my ability. And in terms of being a mentor, I guess what that sort of means, because I'm young and I'm only just into university or going through university, it's to be a role model, right? So if you have a certain learning technique that you did in high school, and then you got to uni and it didn't work and you struggled to adjust, then it makes no sense to then teach that strategy to the students, because you know that they're most likely going to struggle when they get to uni if that's the path that they're on. And so for me, it's about being a role model where, okay, I adjusted my systems, and from what I learned with that, I'm gonna show them, or I learned more about how I actually manage procrastinations or goal setting, and I'm gonna share that with them to save them the mistakes. So it's more about sharing what I've learned empirically, right? And obviously measuring along the way, having data along the way, because there's no point doing things without measuring it, without actually seeing the progress and getting feedback constantly. So in this sort of sense, it's more of a mentor kind of relationship rather than I'm a teacher or I'm even a tutor. And I've seen sometimes I've just seen people tutoring the libraries, and it just seems like they're basically just answering questions that like an AI could probably answer, and the relationship between the student and the tutor is really like a teacher and the student, rather than what I think worked. Well, from my experience, it's worked in all of my all the students that I've tutored, is that it's more of a relationship where I'm, sharing the mistakes I've made, the things that I've learned that are very highly likely to work in their lives, and they can just benefit from that because I guess that's what they're paying for. That's where the value comes from, and it's not from doing things that other AI or YouTube can do. And finally, my fifth principle, and this is a bit more, a bit different. It's to maybe try and avoid tutoring companies. So I know that we said before it's an unregulated field, and tutoring companies, I've never joined one, but I have friends who have done it, and I've seen the sort of how they work, how they cut rates. They take a certain percent of the money, or they help you find students. But what I've found is that a lot of these companies actually make it harder to do the previous 4 dot points, because I've seen some that I actually don't even know the names, but I've seen some that require you to do certain worksheets with the students and things like that. Or what happens with a lot of those is that students can just ask for a new tutor. So instead of, I guess you're selling the tutoring as a service rather than the person, and like that mentor idea where I've done things to a high standard and I have things that I've learned, and I'm going to try and share that and demonstrate that to the parents. So it's more like, it's going to sound weird, but it's more like just everything I've done is the product. That's where the value is, and the way that I share that in a responsible way where I'm getting data back. I'm not just saying this worked for me, should work for you. No, it's like, this worked for me, here's a bit of learning science, maybe let's try this, and then doing a feedback loop, seeing if it worked. And it's through that process that I just don't think it's going to be possible if you had a company where people can swap you, they can ask for a new tutor really quickly, or maybe you're forced to do worksheets, and worst case they're just going to let's say you can do all those things, they're just going to take quite a large percent of the money anyway. And so the way that I grew is that I had this process for about 1 student, and usually if what you're doing is good, then people will recommend you to other friends or someone else who needs it, or parents will recommend. And it's the way that I did it was through organic word of mouth, where if someone related to my student somehow wanted a lesson, then I would just talk to them for an hour. What are your goals? Set those expectations as I talked about in the first principle, and go from there. If they really want someone just to do maths, I can help them find someone who just does maths. Maybe I have a friend who I know is a very high achiever or really good at tutoring that, but that's just not what I chose to do. And it's just through that I had more quality over quantity. Where the students I did, it was maybe 2 years, I think 2.5 years was the longest one, where that's just, and they got the grades that they wanted for university after high school. So for me, it's like a relationship. It's really good, and it's very close, and there's a lot of motivation and good feedback between the parent, me, and the student. And I've just found that, to me, that seems much more net positive than teaching techniques that I know are going to fail in uni. So just teaching maths, knowing that they're going to struggle in uni, and knowing that, and maybe not communicating to the parents. And the parents are just like, oh, well, I paid for tutoring, so it should work. Rather than me just literally, it doesn't take long, demonstrating the effects. And so that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching.